Treachery at Lancaster Gate. Written by Anne Perry. Read by Terry Wale. Chapter 1. Pitt stood in the middle of the street, looking at the smouldering ruins of the house. The fire brigade had thoroughly hosed the small bursts of flame here and there, and the water puddled on the floor and settled in the craters left by the bomb that had detonated 45 minutes ago. Now it was midday, but the sky was still clouded with smoke, and the stench of it was everywhere. Pitt moved out of the way as two ambulance men lifted a wounded man onto a makeshift litter and carried him out to the waiting ambulance. The horses were shifting their weight impatiently, obedient as they were trained to be, but they knew the smell of burning in the autumn air, and each crash of collapsing timber startled them. "That's it, sir," the white-faced constable said to Pitt. Perhaps it was the smoke that stung his eyes, but more probably it was emotion. All the dead and the injured were police as well. 5 of them altogether. "That's the last of them out." "Thank you." Pitt acknowledged the words. "How many dead?" "Hobbs and Newman, sir. We didn't move the bodies." The constable coughed and tried to clear his throat. "Ednam, Bossany and Yarkham are pretty badly injured, sir." "Thank you," Pitt repeated. His mind was teeming with thoughts, and yet he could not come up with anything to say that would give any real comfort to the constable. Pitt was head of Special Branch, that discreet party of security that dealt with anything that was considered a threat to the nation, such as sabotage, assassinations, bombings, any form of terrorism. He had seen destruction and violent death too many times. In fact, before Special Branch, he had been in the regular police, like the dead men, but dealing primarily with cases of murder. But this was a deliberate attack, directed specifically at the police. Colleagues he had known and worked with over the years. He could remember Newman getting married, Hobbs's first promotion. Now he had to search this wreckage for what was left of their bodies. The fact that he had known them should not make any difference. Everybody had one life, to keep or lose. Probably everyone had somebody for whom their death was devastating. And if they did not, was that not even worse? He turned and started to move slowly, picking his way so as not to disturb what was left of the situation. The evidence, if it could be called such. They already knew it was a bomb blast. Passers-by had heard the explosion and seen the rubble flying, and then the flames as wood caught fire. There were glass shards everywhere from exploded windows. 2 people were close enough to be witnesses. Now they were sitting in the back of an ambulance, its doors open as one of the drivers finished binding up a gash in an arm and spoke to them quietly. Both looked battered and shocked, but Pitt would have to speak to them. They might have seen something that would come to matter, however slightly. Sometimes it was what someone did not see, an absence that had meaning, realized only afterwards. Pitt spoke to the man first. He looked to be in his 60s, white-haired, dressed in a formal coat, as if he had been on his way back home from church. There were cuts on the right side of his face and a burn across his cheek, as if a piece of flaming wood had caught him. All his right side was smeared with dust, and there were small burns to the fabric of his clothes. Pitt apologized for disturbing him, asked his name and where he lived. "On my way home from church, God help us," the man said shakily. "Who are they? What kind of people would do this?" He was frightened and trying desperately not to show it in front of his wife. He must have been walking on the outside, as a man would, and she had been closer to the blast and was more seriously hurt. It was her arm the ambulance man was binding, and already the blood was...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?